You're watching Auto News Now. I'm Kristen Strakalitis. On today's episode, Jamie Butters, host of the Daily Drive podcast, sat down with Automotive News Ford reporter Michael Martinez and Automotive News GM reporter Hannah Lutz to talk about the EV pickup race.
So with that GMC Hummer, they're clearly starting out at the very high end of the market. Mike, Ford also with the Lightning, it has quite a range, including high-end versions and as high up to $95,000. What do we know about the mix of production? My assumption would be that Ford would sell mostly $85,000 to $95,000 Lightnings with only a few of the cheaper ones to prove that they can be done.
Well, that's what it seems like traditionally happens in the industry, right, when you have a new vehicle launch. But so far, at least all we know of in these early weeks is that they've built about 2,000 trucks, and they've said they are going to prioritize commercial owners, fleet owners first. So that's going to be the $40,000 or so Pro Series trim. Again, of those 2,000, we don't know how many, if that was all 2,000 of them, or if they're just going to send a couple trucks out to some businesses for a photo op and then build those $90,000 top-end ones.
Yeah, 2,000 of the $40,000 trucks wouldn't kill them, but selling them at $90,000 would sure help make up for some of those development costs and the battery costs that I'm sure are substantial.
For sure.
Now, Hannah, Mary Barra raised some eyebrows last week, pointing out that GM was number one in the U.S. in full-size pickup sales the last 2 years, which I think was interesting because there was probably more attention paid to Ram outselling Silverado, but yet in 250,000 Sierras a year, that made the difference in the company race, GM versus Ford, and did so very profitably.
Right. So the industry tends to think of it as F-150 versus Silverado and Ram, but GM thinks of it as Silverado and Sierra together, so that's how they count it. And the Sierra, GM has found a lot of opportunity, and especially in the past few years with really high-end trim levels, it's a big profit center for them. This year, they're rolling out the Denali Ultimate, which is even more high-end than the already super high-end Denali. So they're really leaning on Sierra in particular for profits right now as they transition to EVs. So it was important for her to point out that they do lead if you count it that way.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some extra marketing costs in, maintaining both brands, but there's so much synergy in the, development and a lot of the technology. It's obviously just a tremendously successful business for GM having that GMC brand.
They're part of the electric truck future and present as well, with Hummer being under GMC, Sierra will be under GMC, and then the electric Silverado under Chevy.
Right. So is this really just a two-horse race between GM and Ford? Obviously Rivian is making some pickups, but they tend to be pretty high end and they're still new to manufacturing. Elon Musk says Tesla will have its Cybertruck next year. Ram's looking at 2024. There isn't anyone even close to talking about the numbers that GM and Ford are, correct?
Yeah, I think it's a two-horse race when you talk about the volumes, and at least from Ford's standpoint, when they're thinking of customers, they're thinking of largely their traditional truck customers, people who are going to use this thing for work at job sites, carry and stuff. And if that Cybertruck ever gets built, it's not a traditional truck. It's not going to draw traditional truck customers. Maybe some of the power specs, may be quite impressive, maybe comparable in some cases, but they're just not the same use cases. Rivian, the R1T, that's for a niche luxury market. They have a nice add-on for a very expensive grill if you go camping. That's maybe not the same type of buyer that's going to be using an F-150. So the way Ford sees it, it's interesting you mentioned what Mary Barra said. Jim Farley made a point of saying at the Lightning launch they expect to be number one in electric pickups. So, they don't want to give up any ground. GM's coming with more nameplates than them. It's going to be a good race.
It'll be interesting to see Ram as well, because even though they're coming out later, executives at Stellantis have said that could be an advantage for them. They'll watch what Ford and GM do and kind of make some plans around that.
We know the domestic brands, I mean, they know what truck buyers want and need. And if they're really focused on this, and you see the way GM and Ford really going after, Ford especially with its Pro brand, really going after that business market, the professional users, if they can find a way to make those vehicles profitably, they should have there's no reason they can't dominate the electric versions just like they do the full-size pickups today.
Well, I think the commercial market is really the key, both for Ford and GM, because when you're a fleet owner, you're not going to want to take a chance on a startup that's unproven. You're going to want to go with what you know and what has been successful. And a lot of these guys have been buying Chevys and F-150s for decades.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It was great talking with you, and I can't wait to see what happens next in this in the next round of battles of GM versus Ford.
Thanks for tuning in. Listen now to Jamie's full interview on the Daily Drive podcast, available on all podcasting platforms. Have a great day.